Hello out there, guys. Just kind of noticed that, there isn't a ton of reviews out there for kind of those niche games, those games that a lot of people like to play, but aren't really in the mainstream. And one of these games is Crusader Kings 2, and I haven't just seen a lot out there for it. So that being said, I kind of just thought, hey, you know what? I'm a person that plays the game, so I'm going to go ahead and put in my 2 cents, whether people want it or not. So here it is, guys. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the game. Um, Pros, cons, what makes the game great, what makes the game not so great, and just kind of an overall review. So yeah, guys, stick tight. So anyways, just off the top, I'm gonna tell you, I've been a fan of the company that creates Crusader Kings 2 since I've played Victoria 2. It's another game that they've made. As a whole, I'm a big fan of the company. It's Paradox Interactive. You guys should definitely check out their other games for sure. Out the bat, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a fan of Crusader Kings 2. That doesn't mean it's without its flaws. So, what is Crusader Kings 2? Just kind of off the top here. Crusader Kings 2 is one of those neat little games that really fits really close to a small number of people that love these type of games. They get super into them, they enjoy them, they have a great amount of fun with them. They log in hundreds of hours on the game, and they just have a great time. But everybody else just doesn't like the game at all. It's a hard game to approach. There's a steep learning curve, and some people just don't think this type of game is very fun. And you can kind of get the idea kind of from the background here. You can kind of see a little bit of the gameplay that's going on with the game. But for the most part, the game is pretty straightforward with how it runs. Essentially, what you do is, it's not even like a traditional strategy game. What happens is, you go into the game, you either choose a historical character or a character that you create yourself in either a county, a duchy, or a kingdom, or even an empire. And you play as that character, and when that character dies, you play as the heir of that character, usually the oldest son, sometimes the oldest daughter, or even sometimes a brother, things like that, whatever kind of lines up and whatever the laws are for inheritance. And you play as the heir, and your goal is to kind of make your family as powerful as you can over the course of history, and it goes from about, they made the startup go back to around the year 800, around that area, it's like 868 or something like that. And then onward, up until almost kind of the 1400s area, because then they kind of hand the reins off to a different set of their games, the Europa Universalis, which is very similar, but you run the country instead. Totally different game. We're talking about Crusader Kings. Anyways, that being said, Crusader Kings is great for people who love strategy, especially strategy that gets really in depth, that really gets really in there. It's a phenomenal game for that. And what's really cool about it, one thing that's really at least held my attention, is the replayability of this game is a lot better than a lot of other strategy games, just because there's a huge RPG element going on there. You have traits you have to take care of, both positive and negative, different marriages that can go through, different kind of strategies in order to kind of become king. You can try to become king of different countries, form different countries. It's just really, really, really open-ended, and no game plays the same way twice. That's a guarantee when it comes to these games. You can die in 3 years into the game. You can die 100 years into the game. It's a roll of the dice, and that's kind of what makes the game great. But you know what? There are some faults of the game, and I guess I can't really blame Paradox Interactive completely. From my understanding, they're a smaller company. They need to make their money, and I support them doing what they have to do to make their money, to stay in business, to make more great games. And but the biggest complaint about Paradox Interactive, especially in the past couple of years, has been their DLC policy. Paradox Interactive has kind of been known now for releasing a half-finished game, and then fixing it up with DLC releases, and then going a little bit overboard with DLC releases. Crusader King is a game that was released about in 2012, and they still have DLCs that come out that are $15 or $20, and they don't really add a lot of content, especially not for $20, especially when the game retails for about $40. That being said, I'll go over that a little bit later. But for the most part, yeah, the DLC, a lot of people say it's there's too many of it, too much of it, too little content, and it's too expensive. But you know what? It's one of those things where people will pay for it, and the company knows that just because it's a niche market, and they're the only ones that offer it. And you know what? They're in that position. That's fine. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not upset at them, though, for it. You know, it's something they have to do in order to stay in business. I get it. That being said, we can kind of go over a few key aspects of the game. So first off is kind of graphics. Now, the graphics of this game, just looking at it, if you're new to the series, you might be like, wow, that's kind of simplistic, but it's actually a huge jump as opposed to the graphics that were there before in the previous games like Hearts of Iron and Victoria, where it was a lot more 2D. Now it's actually kind of a 3D looking map. Instead of looking like it's actually a map, you're kind of looking at a landscape. And the new kind of different map modes that are there, oh man, they're phenomenal. On top of that, the character creator, kind of how it allows you to change up all of the cosmetic aspects of your character, really feels like the characters are your own, and that is awesome about the game. It's just phenomenal. It's awesome. Yeah, so they kind of upgrade the graphics there. The units look a lot better. The sprites look a lot better. All of kind of the GUI has been made so much more intuitive in the past games. That was one of the hardest things to learn, was that learning curve, or was just learning how to navigate the screens and knowing what did what. It's just done so much better. Second off, we can kind of take a look at gameplay. Now, gameplay plays really smooth. It kind of goes off of how fast your computer can process the days. That's kind of how the time periods go through. Faster computer, the faster the game moves. The game can move about as fast as your computer is, essentially. It's not kind of locked into a certain point. And even if you have kind of a bad computer, you can still play the game. You just have to play it a little bit slower, which honestly is fine. I've played this game on computers that weren't that great, and this is kind of awesome about it. It can run on a lot of stuff, which is just great for a computer, especially, or for a game, especially for people who are on budgets and who don't have the best computers, or just want to kind of play on the go and things like laptops and things like that. Yeah, so the gameplay on it plays really smooth. It's really great. That's kind of the functionality of the gameplay. Other than that, the gameplay is super fun, guys. Like I said, replayability is just never ending. You can do whatever you want in this game for the most part. You're very not, especially with some of the newer updates, they added a lot of abilities to customize kind of the rules of the game, which is just awesome. Every game should have that ability. That being said, yeah, the gameplay is just great on this game. The biggest cons in the game, sometimes rules get a little bit weird. Sometimes you'll find yourself in one of those situations where you're like, oh, that's an awkward situation. For some reason, it won't let me marry my daughter to somebody random because it thinks that they're my brother. And that's not an actual situation that's happened, but situations like that do happen, where you get locked into these weird things. Laws just aren't working right at some point. They end up fixing themselves usually within like 20 years of in-game time. But it's just something that shouldn't happen, but it does happen. So the game is actually a little bit buggy. There's a lot of moving pieces. And, you know, it can cause a little bit of issues with that. Now we're going to kind of jump over into the multiplayer area. Multiplayer in this game is phenomenal. It's great. It's like a million times better than that single player experience. It just makes the whole game better. That's all you can really say about it. There is the con, though, and that is their multiplayer system, and all Paradox games have this issue. They tend to do this thing where they go out of sync. So when two players are playing the game, let's say, they end up splitting off into their own little kind of separate time periods, and that's really bad. It tells you when it happens, and it pauses the game and lets you know. But then you have to leave, and you have to re-host the game, and it's just a mess. And that's something they should definitely fix. If that was fixed, oh, these multiplayers would be just the best games ever. So we kind of, went over that. The biggest thing about the game now, one of the final things I want to go over, is kind of that learning curve when approaching the game. They've made it a lot better in their past games. I even have a hard time getting into them, and I'm a big fan of the games, and I've played them a lot. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about in some of the older games. This one was a lot easier to get into. I actually have taught 3 or 4 people how to play this game, because I set up LAN parties with this game at my house on the occasion. It's one of the few games I do come back to play a lot. Especially with LAN parties, it's so much fun just to, you know, kind of cajole with other people. But anyways, the learning curve in this game is a lot better. That being said, it's not hard to beat something that sucks in the first place, you know what I mean? Like, the game already has a tutorial system. The tutorial system sucks. You really just need to play and watch a couple YouTube videos in order to figure out what exactly you're doing. Once you get it down, it's like riding a bicycle. You know exactly what you're doing, and you're going to be fine. But it's just getting it down that first time that the issue is. That being said, the final thing I want to toss in there is this game is great. It's phenomenal. It's very awesome. I would honestly give it a 9 out of 10 if you like strategy. If you don't like strategy, pass it up. Also, I wouldn't pay $40 for it. I wouldn't pay the full retail price for it. I would wait for it to go on sale or try to find it somewhere cheaper elsewhere. I'd probably pay like $20 for this game max, just because it's been out for a while and it's a little bit overpriced at $40. Especially if there's no DLC that come with it. It's a little bit bare bones without any of the DLC, so that's kind of out of the way. The game's great, especially if you have people to play with. If you have someone to play with and you love strategy, get this game. You have no idea how much fun it is to start assassinating each other. You set up royal marriages between you. You set up huge dynasties that set up alliances across the map of Europe. You spread across. On top of that, the biggest thing about this game, the thing that's added so much even hype to this game, is just that there there are tons of mods out there which do all kinds of cool stuff. The biggest of which, and the most well-known of which, is the Game of Thrones mod, which does a total conversion of the map of Europe into the Game of Thrones with all the characters. And you can play in that world, make your own character in that world. And that's actually what me and my friends like to do when we land this game. Tons of fun. We all set up marriages, you set up alliances with each other, you assassinate each other, you set up bribes, you try to take over and become kings of the north, and all that kind of stuff. The game is just phenomenal. So do yourself a favor. If you like strategy, go out and get a copy. If you don't, I don't know why you're watching this video or still kind of here. Anyways, you guys have a great night. I hope you guys enjoy this. Just like I said, wanted to toss in my 2 cents. So yeah, you guys have a great night, alright? The game's great. Go get the game. If you enjoy it, give me a thumbs up. See you guys.